I stepped on the mat for the first time, honestly, without really knowing that I even liked martial arts. I just kind of stepped in on a friend's class out of moral support and then realized I just had this untapped love and passion for martial arts and just never stopped training after that day. And but after that, I it was stepping on the mat for me gave me purpose. So I wanted to keep that feeling going. So the more I went, the more I felt like I had a purpose. Leading up to that, I was pretty young, like 19, so just out of high school and didn't really have a direction. So I was going out a lot. I was, drinking on the party scene, just kind of like floating around. Like I knew I was meant for something more, but just didn't really know which path to take. So um, once I had that and found purpose in that, and I knew in my mind that I could make something of myself. I just didn't know how, but I knew that like this is a passion and now it's a dream and I want to see how far I can take it. So um, yeah, I just wanted to keep building on that and, adding fuel to the fire. And so I was just like, you couldn't keep me off the mat after that. So it's funny, like after the first like 6 months, like an opportunity came up. It was sort of like this little local boxing tournament. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And just without knowing anything, there weren't even like really weight classes or anything like that. You just kind of like, I had 4 fights that night and I won. I beat a girl that was like 20 pounds heavier than me. And I was like, oh, I had this like, I don't know, this like fire in me. And I just wanted to like, I want to keep feeling that again. Yeah, I jumped in on that boxing tournament, and then I did some competed in kickboxing a little bit. But around when I started kickboxing was when I saw like the women fighting in MMA, like Gina Carano back then, and Chris Cyborg and Misha Tate, and I was like, man, I want to do that. So it's just sort of getting inspiration from like seeing other women who've paved the way for us to like be able to do that and be taken seriously in the sport. So I was like I said before, I had the determination and knowing I wanted to take it um, as far as I could, but couldn't really see it. But I think that's when I saw it, was when I started seeing like, the women before me doing it. And I just, yeah, like I said, drew inspiration from that. And that was when for me, I'm like, all right, I want to do MMA now. So I made that transition. I just always had that like day one attitude. We talk about that a lot in here at our gym, is just like just that day one where you don't care and you just like you're in it and you're having fun, you love it, and just like you don't really give a shit, and you're just, yeah, you're improving. And we make mistakes, but it drives us to, we learn from those and it helps us to become better. So no, like I had no fear. I was like, fuck this, I'm doing it. It makes me happy. So it's either this or like, what else am I going to do, kind of thing. Like I don't I actually had a moment where when I first started, like I said, I was like on the party scene and I was still trying to like do both because I'm very much a social butterfly, but I realized like I had to make a choice. There was a point where I was like, all right, I can't stay out all night and then like wake up and feel good enough to train and have that same, um, drive and, feeling like shit. So I was like, I enjoy training and martial arts better than being on the party scene. So, um, like most fighters, we all have a story. I don't think I know any great fighters who don't come from, some hardship in their life off the mat. So, um, I've experienced a lot, but I would say like the biggest obstacle for me was surviving a domestic violence relationship, and where it led me on a path of 6 years of being abused, all mentally, um, you know, emotionally, financially, and physically. And so, um, going through that, happened. Like I said, it was 6 years, and then I was already like training and fighting. So that's how I met my ex, and he was also a fighter. So it was like something we did together, which was great. But I was also like experiencing like behind closed doors, all these things that nobody really knew about, and it got to the point where I put myself on the back burner and kind of said, goodbye to my dreams for now because it just got to the point where it was a lot easier for me to not go to training or to not do certain things that made me happy to avoid confrontation or a fight with my ex. And so I found myself really isolated very quickly. And that eventually, it always gets worse. They say, oh, I'm sorry, it'll never happen again. You hear that a lot in relationships, and you have this cycle of, things get really bad, and then there's an apology, and things are like amazing. Sometimes amazing for, might be a day a week, or it could be like a whole year when things are amazing, and then it happens again. And then you find yourself back again of like trying to like survive. And so through that, it ended up being, it did get worse over the years. And then once I had my daughter, I realized like this is not the environment I want to raise my child in. And it just wasn't, I just had this thing inside me. Like I just wasn't happy. I was just miserable. I was like just so beaten down and like defeated and just sad all the time, like, and afraid, like living in constant fear on a daily basis. But that eventually led my daughter and I having to escape my ex. And then we found ourselves in a domestic violence safe haven for women and children we lived there for around 4 months. And, but through that was my chance to essentially rewrite my story on my terms and like live my life for me and for my daughter. And so living at the safe haven was when I said, I'm going to like take my power back, and taking back my power meant like I'm going to start doing all the things that brought me joy and fulfillment. And that was martial arts for me. So I started training again every day, which gave me that purpose again, that feeling of purpose and accountability and just taking responsibility for my life, the good and the bad, and like learning how to forgive my ex, which was a really hard thing to do. It's hard to forgive somebody who's not sorry. But I learned that when I did forgive, it was more for myself, and it allowed me to pretty much like strip myself of all the things, right, that I was carrying from my ex. Was like, the pain, the resentment, like any negativity. I felt like I had to let that all go, because if I hung on to that, it just meant he still had control over me. And so I just was like, you know what, that was the only way for me to move forward, was to forgive him. And so but yeah, through that I just like really found myself again through martial arts, and just really fell in love with myself. And just, yeah, it became like this, I don't know, I feel like I was always myself inside. It was always there. I just needed to find the strength and confidence to say, okay, like I'm willing to lose it all so I can gain everything and more. So to be honest, it was kind of ugly at first, because through I was still dealing with so much. Like when I stepped back on the mat the first time, like since I was still at the safe haven, but like finally like making that decision, I like stepping on the mat, I was like, okay, like this is me. Like I just felt like I was like really stepping into who I was in that moment. And I just, with the ugly part, it just meant like I had to face a lot of like messed up stuff that I didn't want to, because it's easy when you go through things, or if somebody else inflicts pain on you or puts you through, you know, something like I went through. Like it's so easy to be like, you know, to fall into like that victim mode or victim mentality where like, poor me, look what you did to me, look this. Like, no, like my life is mine and I'm going to take responsibility, like the good and the bad. So I had to um face all those things. But through that, I was just like, I don't know, it gave me a love for myself that I couldn't get from anybody else. And I was able to just fill that void with, I guess just like I said before, like coming to who I am and just allowing myself to like feel pain on the mats, and just to pushing myself to my limits, and just like testing myself, trying new things and taking risks. And it just, I don't know, it gave me just a newfound confidence and love for myself for that, because I feel like you really don't, I mean, there's other ways to find out who you are like as a person, but I feel like the mats don't lie. For me, there's no better way to like really find out who you are than being on the mats because you can't there you just yeah you can't lie like the mats sorry the mats don't lie like if you cheat yourself then you're like it shows like if you're not working hard it shows um and really just allowing myself to like I don't know be open and free and just be happy and yeah be okay with my mistakes. It has allowed me my journey has allowed me to just step into the best version of myself every single day, like always striving, never taking shortcuts, and just, man, especially for women in this space because it's such a it's a male dominated sport. So like just like stepping in with like strength and confidence and like I am this too like I am a fighter not just for a female or a woman or a girl like no I am a fighter and I'm a damn good fighter and I can hold myself on these matches just as well as the next person and I really think that to touch on like the question before is like that's what helps me to just be a better um, mother, sister, a friend, all the things. Um, yeah, it's just just always striving to be the best version of yourself on the mats and off the mats. I would just tell my younger self to stay true to yourself. Stay true to who you are and your beliefs and your values and don't break them for anybody. And to, while I didn't really experience, any like each I've only had two gyms, right? And we ended up sort of like meshing teams. So I haven't really some people kind of like bounce around until they find like their forever home, like on the mats. But like for me, I've been fortunate enough to not really have that experience. And I feel like my home has always been my home. And to just, I don't know. Um, I just feel like just to be patient as well. I don't know what I wanted to say off of what I said. I'm sorry. But yeah, stay true to yourself and yeah, just be patient. Like not everything has to happen overnight and allow yourself to make mistakes. You know, speak speak positive words into yourself and into your life and um just yeah. I don't know. I think that's pretty much it, I guess.